you from the subject single, saved, and sexual. Single, saved, and sexual. Let me, on the offset of this message, spend a little time with the prolegomena of the text, the word before the word. Let me set the text up for you that you can get a clearer understanding of what Paul is talking about here. First of all, let's talk about the history in which this text is written. Many ministers, many preachers do you a disservice because they begin to share with you what the text means to you today without first telling you what the text meant to those it was written to. Because if the text does not mean today what it meant yesterday, somebody just made a big mistake. That you can't go to God's word and eisegete the text and go in and make the text say what you want it to say. First, we got to figure out what was Paul talking about then. Then we build a bridge of contemporization to our days and time that we might then apply to our life. And so that's what we have to do. So at this time now, Paul is talking to the Corinthian church because he's working and trying to clear up a lot of issues that they had in this church. And those of you who are coming to Bible study, we were actually in 1 Corinthians. And we talked a good bit about one of the issues, and it was spiritual gifts. That they were talking about one gift was greater than the other gift. But Paul also addressed issues like communion, the Lord's Supper, that people were coming to the Lord's Supper getting drunk and getting full. And Paul would say, listen, the Lord's Supper ain't about that. Paul also addresses issues about fornication in the church. Paul had all kind of issues going on that he was trying to correct. But there were other questions that the Corinthian church sent with their letter to Paul. And one of the questions was, what about marriage? What about being single? And you must understand the culture in which this letter is written. And when we read the Bible, many of us, if we have not had any proper training, we instantly start thinking about the text in your day and time. You can't do that. You're going to miss something. Now, in this culture, in the history that Paul is writing this letter, number one, he's talking to people who had just come out of paganism and those who had just come out of Judaism. And so both of these religious sects believed in arranged marriages. People didn't get married just because they saw somebody and loved them. They got married because of social status and economical gain. Because a man wanted a wife that she can produce him children. And the more male children that she had, the more wealthy he could be. And so people didn't get married for love, they got married for money. Somebody said, Pastor, that's what they get married for now. And so in this culture, marriages were arranged. And believe it or not, watch this. People stayed married longer then than they do now. When your mama and daddy pick your husband, you tend to stay married longer. Because when mom and daddy pick your husband, they pick the husband based on what he had and what he was able to give you. And if they felt that man could not give you a good life, they was not going to bless this marriage. But now, if we see somebody and he fine, you don't want to go no further. You want to get married and don't last anytime. So Paul is preaching to these people. And there are some who saying, listen, I don't want to be married. I don't want to be married. But you got to understand, if a woman was not married in Paul's day, nobody took her seriously. She couldn't own no business. She couldn't have any land. And that's why it was important for a woman to be connected to a man. If she did not have a husband, she at least needed an older son to take care of her business. Now, thank God it's not like that now, but that's the way it was. And the other important thing for you to get in this text is that Paul, as well as the whole church, believed that Jesus was going to come back at any moment. They believed that at any moment Jesus was coming back. They were not like us who think we got 5 years to get right. They actually believed that Jesus could be here tomorrow. And with that belief, Paul now gives this teaching. Paul says, I wish all of you remain like me. Because the truth of the matter, Paul said, I don't have time for marriage. Because my Lord is going to be here any moment. And I ain't got time worried about taking care of no wife. You ain't got time worried about taking care of a husband. You need to worry about the kingdom. Because the truth of the matter, when we get to glory, it's not going to be husband and wife. And so Paul says, listen, I ain't got time to be married. I got to do the Lord's will. And so Paul has ascribed to what's called asceticism. Asceticism, self-denial, denial of worldly pleasures. Paul says, I don't want the worldly pleasure. The only thing I want is the presence of God in my life. Self-denial, where we get the word monasticism, where we get the word monastery, when we get the monks. When Anthony the monk, the first monk, got tired of Constantine, the first, am I giving y'all too much? You know, some folks say we don't like a lot of teaching, we want preaching. What's the difference? Are you saying that we want excitement but we want to remain ignorant? Oh, okay. And so Constantine, the first emperor, says, listen, quit killing Christians. Christianity is cool. As a matter of fact, it's so cool, listen, I'm going to make it a law. And now it is a law that everybody become a Christian when we first see the church and the state come together. But Anthony, the monk, says, listen, I don't like what Constantine is doing to Christianity. It's become too watered down. It's become too contemporized. And so he says, listen, I'm going into the wilderness where I don't have to be a part of all of this stuff. I don't want the worldly pleasures. And he goes deep into the wilderness, and then there's a group of people who says, listen, I like what he's doing. And they follow him into the wilderness. And that's how we end up with these monasteries on the top of mountains and back in the woods where only monks and nuns go. Those people who said, listen, I don't want the worldly pleasures. Listen, I don't have that much love for the kingdom. I still like to eat a good steak every now and then.